best feeling in the world.
Okay, I would love. Okay, I feel like I'm like in the ocean of it right now. So
Yeah.
like, I just don't understand why we don't discuss that there's a real situation with menopause. There's perimenopause. Like everyone we know conceptually menopause, right? Because a lot of
Yes.
women rejoice, but this whole perimenopause business, and yes, I'm going to say it right now. I am so annoyed that why am I at my age now hearing about this? Really hearing
Exactly.
about this. There are no ads like that, other
No.
than, although I did hear an Ambrin ad the other day, and I'm like, son of a sea cook, I'm now the target market demographic. But okay,
You
Ambrin, but what
are.
other brands are there? Like, what other brands are there? I mean, I hear about Viagra all day long, but what about stuff that's
Exactly.
going to help you alleviate
Nothing.
second puberty
Nothing.
sucks? So anyone that's listening, and by the way, we're live. Anyone that like doesn't know, and or why so many divorces happen around this time frame, it's because people don't understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And anytime I found like a product, like even things for hot flashes, like these great cool wipes, they were hidden in the supermarket and then they were gone. And then I called the company, like, why aren't you making them? Well, no one's buying them. I'm like, you're not advertising them. This is the greatest thing I've ever used in my life. And you're not selling it to me now. I'll sell it to all my friends. Um, it's
I think this has got to be a multi. Maybe someone tell me if I'm right or wrong here, or ignorant. Someone chat and tell us. Like, this has got to be a multi-billion-dollar industry. People, like, how is it that I don't know of anything about this multi-billion-dollar industry? Because women are a huge buying,
absolutely.
market. How come we don't hear about it? It's so bizarre to me. But anyway, you know what? I'm having a lot of conflict internally right now on this, Leslie. But look, we may have to continue this conversation, but are you
We will.
ready? As we all know, the mic is listening. Are
I
you ready for this?
I am ready and looking forward to it.
All right, let's do it.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is
The
listening.
mic is listening.
The mic
The mic
is
is
The
listening.
mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic
The
is
mic
listening.
is listening.
The mic
The
is
mic
listening.
is listening.
The mic is listening.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the mic is listening. And if you're listening, oh, you're listening today because there are days when I just have no patience for anything, anyone, myself, much less the leaf that just fell on top of my car. And I'm saying, oh my gosh, did you scratch my car? Realistically, it's not what's happening. It's got to be something inside of you. But damn it, Janet, anyone that doesn't know anything about perimenopause, I swear to God, it's a thing and it sucks. And just have some grace for women that are going through it. That includes you men and teenage kids, because the odds are high you're going to have teenage kids, and it sucks, sucks, sucks. I actually had Emily Barkley in a previous episode of the Mike is Listening. Emily, shout out to you, girl. Um, she has this huge Facebook group that I think just hit 50K following. Anyone that's going through it, highly recommend. So that's my rant of the day, because you know why? Conflict sucks. We don't like it. How do you deal with it? And you know what? If anyone knows anything about political season as it's coming up again, is, we're going to have disagreements in life. And of course, there's that saying, let's agree to disagree. Okay, I get that. But for some odd reason in social media, we don't seem to have that ability. We can't just let it go. Let it go. So I asked our wonderful guest for today, Leslie Nydick. She is the conflict strategist, to join us because, girl, oh my goodness, like there are days when I'm come out guns blazing, you know, and it can't be
Well,
healthy. It can't be healthy for relationships.
well, I think it can be. And there's one contrarian kind of thing I want to say is I don't like the statement, let's agree to disagree, because I think what happens is the conflict's still there. You're just walking away from it. And then it builds because time increases it. So I am one of those where I'm like, let's talk about it. And I don't mean right at that minute. There's so many different things, but I, I think we have to approach it and address it and think about it like a conversation. I'm just, reframe it.
Okay, so I am the worst with conflict now as a entrepreneur. I think it's my upbringing. As I am the baby of the family, and I notice I used to be quite the what's that called? Negotiator amongst my family members and whatnot, right?
Sure.
And I think that's kind of my root. When I was in my corporate sales mode, I was a little bit less reticent to address conflict. I was all about it because I didn't have time,
Yep.
just because of our business. And then as I moved in entrepreneurship, because it became more personal, because it's about me, right, as an entrepreneur, I reverted back. And I hate
Yes.
conflict. I realized I think I struggled through addressing conflict. I had to do it, but now that I'm on my own, I have to readdress that the need to do it. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm rambling, but I feel like
Yes.
it's
You're
that
not
conflict
rambling.
internally. Like,
But that whole, like, it is really like this continuum where if I say to you conflict is good, you're going to completely ignore me. I have to like transition that. And I did it for myself too, where it's like, okay, like conflict is a bunch of disagreements. Well, disagreements are just different ideas. Different ideas are different perspectives. If you see where I'm going, like those words start to sound like, oh, okay, I like when someone has a different perspective. That's an interesting conversation. And sorry if you heard that fire engine going by. I don't
didn't
know if
hear
it
it.
was picking up. Good. So that's what I mean by like transform conflict. It's just we have to change our mindset about it. The word conflict, just like 10 years ago when I used to keep on hearing the word disruption, I was like,
Yes.
what are they talking about? Disruption. That was everything I was told not to do growing up. Don't disrupt. Disruption is bad. All of a sudden, disruption became good. And it took a little while for me to like swallow it. Like, it's good. Well, I think that's the same thing with conflict. Conflict is disruption. Well, if disruption is good, maybe conflict is good. And that's where I mean reframe it so that our
Yeah.
mind could receive it.
It's almost like you have to say, accept a perspective, accept a different angle, accept a different approach. And that's that level of openness that I
Yes.
don't know we have. Why?
Yeah.
Because as a kid, it's interesting. Okay, I have a theory on this. Okay, you're making me think about this. Okay, so let's say as children, we're in the playground. We're like 5, 6 years old, right? We don't understand resolution to conflict. We just simply know how we feel on things. So there's playground fights, or there's, oh, she
Yes.
hit me, and blah blah blah, and crying in tears, right? It's very binary as a child.
Yes.
However, as children, we're also, I believe, inherently more curious. So we're
Yes.
open to seeing the other alternative in different aspects. How is it that that evolves into adulthood? Because I feel like we've, hopefully, we're not punching each other. Compulsion is strong at
Hope
times, especially right now, but we are not physically doing it. But yet we've closed off our curiosity to accept that other perspective. Does that make sense?
absolutely. We do. Like, think about how well we asked questions when we were young. We asked questions about everything. Like, how is the sky blue? Anything we saw, we wanted to know how, why, how to make it, what to do with it. And then it stopped and it became, we thought we were supposed to decide, judge, resolve, problem solve. And we forgot the whole communication part where it involves other people, where to hear someone's idea doesn't mean I have to agree with your idea or you have to disagree with mine. There's
Right.
this other. There, you take two, three, four ideas, and actually the idea that comes out of it is very different. It may take pieces of each idea after listening. And we kind of lost that like innovation, like the inventions we made when we were younger. Like there were no rules. We just invented stuff. We didn't care that it
True.
really couldn't be made. And we kind of, the same way we lost our curiosity with questions, we stopped asking questions. We just decided. We'd hear
Yeah.
something, we'd observe something, and we'd make an assumption and decision without the conversation.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Assumptions. It's
Hmm,
just making an ass of you and me, baby. Okay, but we do
absolutely.
it. Why do we naturally make assumptions? Is it because we are fearful of looking stupid? Are we fearful or like why do we make assumptions? It would seem counterintuitive as a human to assume something without all the facts. I mean,
I think you said it before, like when, we're all talking about even just diversity. We want more diversity in our workplace, more inclusion. We're actually not doing it. We just check off the box and say we're
no.
doing it. We have to start it with conversation. If you observe or listen to a meeting, it's rare that
Uh-oh. I
different
think I've lost
views. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You froze for just a quick second there, but don't worry. If you don't mind
Oh,
repeating that.
no, I was going to say we're not most meetings just or conversations you observe in a workplace, divergent views are rare.
Yeah.
People don't feel comfortable asking a question, especially if something's presented to you and they're like, I wonder if that will work. I'm wondering if, A and B will really match up like the person said. There isn't a safety to bring that up because we're not accustomed to it. We're accustomed to just yesing or agreeing or being an echo chamber. And
Yeah.
to be the opposite is very difficult. I know that during Zooming and all of that, the one thing I've noticed is that so at the end of a meeting, someone will say, and are there any questions? Well, first of all, the meeting's about to end. Everyone's been on Zooms all day long and they're glad it's going to end. We don't even give room for real questions. Like, what are your questions? Not, are there questions? Of course, there are questions.
Yeah.
And if you don't invite them, then it starts to perpetuate the echo chamber that it's only okay to agree, it's not okay to disagree, or just raise a challenging question.
Yeah. No, I think because we also don't want to lose credibility, right? Because in the workplace, this is your livelihood, right? This
Exactly.
is where you have to have certain amount of authority in your area. Whether you are in a leadership role or a contributing member, you're still part of a quote team, right?
Yes,
Overall. So if you don't want, no one wants to look stupid or foolish, right?
exactly.
So this is the funny part is I I'm totally gonna shout out my sister on this because she is probably one of the smartest people in the world. I really shouldn't say this out loud because her head's gonna get huge, and I'm gonna see her later on today. But she is a ditz. Like she comes off as ditzy. She is just like, I don't get it. I need to ask this question. But the thing is, she has no
Or
qualms about asking that fracking question that we're all probably thinking. But yet at the same time, it's like, are you really asking this question? So why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we do it to others when they're asking a question and we're not giving grace to let them maybe catch that concept, you know, later faster than others?
you just revealed one of the tricks of a mediator or even an arbitrator or anyone trying to help others resolve conflict. Kind of play like you don't get it so that you can ask the questions of each of the people and then they start to hear each other's answers.
Oh,
But playing like you don't get it, and then that helps you ask the curious questions so that people can hear more. So that is one of my tricks. So now it's not a secret anymore.
oh, well, I think as a moderator, you know, it's almost like lawyers, right? Can you clarify this statement? Did you or did you not say XYZ? Now, of course, it's not a confrontational thing, but it's that questioning. You're
Yes.
almost like calming people down because they have to reposition them or restate their position, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's really funny. I didn't even think of it that way. Huh. Okay.
There.
Here here's another
Oh, go
question I
ahead.
have. I'm like getting all excited. So as you can tell, I'm like leaning in. Hopefully I'm not blowing everyone's eardrums out. Here's my question. When someone is in the heat of the moment, right? We're all and we don't have luxury of time necessarily. How do you
Yes.
suggest for us to maybe cool jets to resolve not the whole situation, because maybe you can't boil the ocean all at once, but maybe maybe not make a tsunami, but maybe make some waves, but not a tsunami. How do you what's that word?
Well,
Lessen conflict.
right, like de-escalated. The
De-escalate.
Absolutely. So one thing, it's the power of the pause, and it really could be expanded to be even the break. So if I'm with someone and they're the ones, high emotions, and I'm feeling it too, just say, you know what you have to say is so incredibly important. Let's like schedule a time in about half an hour. That gives the other person time to reflect and think. It gives me time to even think about what I want to say and give that moment. It's that stepping back thing, because a lot of times when we're in the heat of the moment, we're responding to how they said it, not what they said. We're not really hearing the what. So taking that break, even sometimes a pause of 10 seconds does it, but a lot of times we need more. And that's what hits on something you said earlier on, like the patience to address conflict. Yes, it can be, especially if there's someone you're working with all the time, it takes an incredible amount of time to address what the conflict is, because usually there's layers and it's built up for a long time. There's a statement that a lot of people say, and I didn't always know what it meant. It wasn't always applying to conflict. It was applying to, our career journeys. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And it wasn't until it was about 12 years ago. I am not an athlete. Anyone who knows me, I am not athletic. I was doing a lot of walking. And to make a long story short, I was convinced by a friend that I had to join her and her three other friends to enter a race. A race? You want me to run? So uh, over time, she convinced me. It was a group of five of us of all varying talents and skills, me being the ultimate slowest. We built a real team. Luckily, I was always last, so everyone always waited for me because we had to have breakfast together. There was this whole team thing going on, but we had to train for a year and a half, and I entered and ran the New York City Marathon. And that was when I really understood that crazy phrase, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I apply it to this whole thing of managing conflict, of helping people with difficult conversations, because it's patience, it's a team, it's figuring out how to train, so to speak, relearning skills that you didn't know you had. And the most important one is absolutely mindset. Because let me tell you, this body doesn't know how to run a marathon. It was my mind that completely got me there. The cheering, being on bridges by myself. Like I had all these moments that can apply when you go
Yeah.
on the marathon, you run over 5 bridges. There was one bridge that I was just entered and I was like, oh no, I can't do this one. Luckily, cell phone in hand, called my dad and he walked me essentially through the bridge. But that's what it's all of that. Sometimes we
Yeah.
have to call on a friend, take a break, rethink it, do it a different way. And it really applies to conflict as well as our careers and business.
Yeah, no, oh my gosh, you just ate. You just said so much that it's like a huge meal you just served in that whole example onto itself. So it's we can keep talking about this, but there's something that Don McKenzie here. I just want to highlight this because it was kind of triggering me as we started. You started your story, and it's so true though. Which is, are you listening to understand or listening to react? Which is like that marathon analogy. You're talking about is like, well, are you running this race to say you ran that race, or is it something that you're, what I mean? It was just kind of
Yes.
triggering me on. Do we listen to understand enough or to react? Do you
No.
see
And
that?
I'll tell you why. We all do it. It's hard you have to be very intentional not to. But there's a fact that helps explain why this is so challenging. When we talk, we can talk at 125 to 200 words per minute. When we can listen to 400 to 700 words per minute. So just think about that gap for a moment. So there's all this like essentially empty space in our head, capacity. And what do we do with it? We start planning what our next question is. We start fixing the other person's problem because we don't really listen to the whole thing. We kind of think we know how to solve it. We're planning what we're going to buy for dinner. We're thinking about the argument we might have had with a loved one in the morning. And we fill up this space, and guess what we're not doing? We're not listening. So it's really hard to just listen because you have to leave all that empty capacity, just let it sit there. Don't let it do anything. Just listen.
Man, it's you triggered another thought. It's like truly listening to a child talk too, right? It's almost like if you want to practice it, listen to a 3-year-old or 5-year-old tell a story and really
my God.
listen to what they're saying. I find a lot of really good parents are the ones that are like, oh, let's talk about hippity hoppity and jumping over the cliffs of Azure, and you're like just random details. That's really cool. So okay, so here's something I didn't ask you, and I probably should have asked from the jump. Where the hell does this come from? Like, why are you the conflict strategist? What happened in your life, my friend, that you're like, nope, that's it. We're gonna address this, and this is gonna be my career. Like, where did this come from?
I would have never predicted this. So I started my career in real estate, facilities management, design, and construction. So and I worked for various organizations, everything from government to a large university, Wall Street. I even worked at Radio City Music Hall, and no, I wasn't a Rockette. Remember, I said I'm not athletic. I was friends with them, but I wasn't one. So what I found is that I literally was in the middle of conflict every day. So without really thinking about it, I had to figure out how to manage it because otherwise I would have been, a crazy person because it was going on all day, whether I was on a construction site, whether I was in the office and people are like demanding more office space for the people they were going to hire. And I started to realize, and in a way I didn't know it was reframing. I reframed like the conflict. It's just a conversation. People are heated, but it's a conversation. And how am I going to squeeze in my questions so that they'll actually answer them rather than just doing the rant? And that's what started to help me see that there was a process, that we all need to vent at times. Then we need to be heard. We need more listening. We need respect. And you start to add that all up, and I realized, oh, well, isn't that kind of conflict management? So when I had an opportunity after 20 years of being in the middle of that, to go out on my own and figure out, well, what am I going to do? Oh, well, why don't I focus on the conflict and the communication because that's what I was excelling at. And I need to help others, like kind of speak it because no one knows what to do with it. And we weren't taught in school. You brought up the kids, on the playground. There are a few schools that have like mediation conflict resolution programs starting in kindergarten. And it's amazing. The kids themselves have to work together. They bring the kids in, and the fifth grader will help the kindergartners where they're like, well, she said she's not my best friend anymore. And they'll ask them questions like, well, what happened? What changed? And they're learning those like qualities that we lost all along the way because we weren't told it was okay to ask all these questions or to doubt someone's idea and want to talk about it.
Yeah. No, that is, oh man, some of these kids, I don't have kids, full disclosure. But like when I hear like all of these programs, I'm like, son of a sea cook. Like, where was that when I was growing up? You know what I mean? It didn't even exist, back then. And I do feel, okay, let me ask you this then. So I do feel like kids today seem like they have a lot of tools being given to them to do actual life, like deals with life versus like dealing with, memorization that you think of when in traditional education.
Yes.
If this generation, how long ago did this all start with these programs? How long would you say it's been in place?
Some of them more than 20 years ago, but very isolated
Really? Okay.
programs. They're not like you'll find a town with it, but not the whole state with it.
Okay. Well, because the reason why I'm asking is because is so now we're starting to see them now in the workforce is what I guess we can articulate. This is like the Gen Zs
Yes.
because the millennials are now kind of, oh man, my boyfriend makes fun of me. He's like, you can't help but keep talking about generations. I'm like, there's some validity to it, but it's the
Yeah.
Gen Zs that we're seeing that are like, no, we're going to do conflict resolution much more healthier than our parents. And
Yes.
now, why is it that there's a perception that um, conflict resolution is a wussier way out? Why is it not given respect as a proper way of addressing, challenges that arise between people? Why is it considered, for lack of a better term, a pussy way out?
I just think that conflict is so scary, tense for people that they just want to put it away, that it's not something that needs focus. It needs to be addressed. We'd rather talk, I'm not going to put down people who write stuff like, oh, I want to meet like-minded people. I always want to ask, do you really? Do you really only want to meet like-minded people? They really don't when you start asking them. I go, you wouldn't need a conversation if you were all like-minded. You'd all think alike and you could just nod your heads knowing that you're thinking the same.
Yeah.
But we have this aversion to, well, if it's different, I don't necessarily want to deal with it. And I'd rather put it aside because I don't know how to deal with it. I only know how to deal with the like stuff, not the stuff that's unlike me.
Right.
I don't know. Life would be kind of boring without all these differences with
A
people
little.
who think differently.
Well, I think it keeps expanding the way you think, right? And that's isn't that what they say in Leadership 101? Where's Patik? Patik, where are you, my friend? Like it is like Leadership 101 is like you should have a diverse team of different types of personalities, not necessarily personalities that will conflict, but at least complement, right?
Yes.
And I think that is something that we don't think about. It was one of my 101 hiring mistakes when I was a first time manager. I hired people that was like me. And what a shit
Yes.
show that was. I mean, oops, sorry, we're 10:30. But yeah, what a joke that was because we were fighting too much of the same attention space, right? For
Yes.
whatever things that we're fighting over. And side note, I have to say, Dina's cracking me up. Kids today. I know, Dina. I'm sorry. I really need to stop that. Kids today. Anyway, that ADD me for a second here. But yeah, going back to the listening part is, and this is something we don't do enough in our business aspect, but in our personal relationships. Like I
No.
feel like we don't have enough constructive conversations anymore, which is why one of the major reasons why I love this show because I like and I miss having conversation where I have to stop and think.
Yes.
Where I don't know enough of a certain topic, but you do, where you're going to educate me and, I'm open to listening and hearing what you have to say. Do you
Yes.
think our societal appetite for conflict resolution is where it needs to be? And if not, how do we get it closer to where you think it should be?
I think that the big thing is what I said before, that the word conflict, I think, is so difficult for people that if I did something recently where I said like conflict is good for business and I wanted to get people's reaction and I tried to like drive them through the transition where I said before, like conflict is disruption. That sounds okay to people. You almost have to do it in steps, like to draw people in and let them know conflict is actually good because it is how we define it. If you only think about conflict as what's going on in a war, then maybe you can't accept my statement, conflict is good for business. If
Yeah.
I start explaining what conflict really is, it is differing opinions, differing perspectives, not understanding each other's perspectives, and then adding emotions in or feeling like something's threatened, whether it's my respect or my pride, or maybe I think I'm going to lose resources over this. So it's a lot of reframing. We get stuck in words, and that's usually how when I do training or teach, I start. I'll get, this is an example I give to people. So in your personal life, I'm sure you've experienced it. You've dated someone, the first date is over, you're all excited, and someone, you either say or they say, I'll call you very soon. And then the clock starts ticking because you know when soon is, whether it's an hour, a next day, or another week away. The other person knows when their soon is, and yet they never talk about it. But then guess what? We've got a conflict going because now the tensions are rising. They start not to talk about it. And it really comes down to a word. So sometimes we just use these words that people find so difficult to accept. Let's not use the word conflict. Let's use different perspectives. Whatever it is, if that makes it easier to start hearing what it takes. It's communication, it's conversation, it's allowing people to have emotions. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't have to run away just because you're upset and angry. I can stay and watch that and let you vent over what you, and then we can start listening. You can't hear me when you're in the tense emotions.
Yeah. Okay, so I know we're running a little bit long. So, guys, everyone that's listening, if I can just beg 5 more minutes of your time. So, Leslie, I gotta ask, or maybe I should have you come back. You gotta come back anyway. But okay, what if you're in a fundamental it's not happening. You will never see eye to eye. I.e., politics or religion. There's just no changing of a particular opinion, and you know it. And I'm going back to the agree to disagree. What strategy would you suggest if you got team members or colleagues or, you know,
Sure.
that just it ain't family members, you know,
Yes.
uncle and
Well,
auntie at the table, and you're like, okay, let's just keep eating that Thanksgiving turkey. Like, what do you advise to just understand it's just never happening?
so you're asking a person who comes from a family where many people, including myself, are either married or partnered with someone who is opposite politically, often religiously, everything. So, how does it work? Because it does work. I know that a lot of times it escalates, and especially in the office. I mean, I saw it during the last election. It escalates because if you have that opinion, I feel like I have to change it. Why? Like, what is getting me so upset that you think differently than I do? So we have to really look within ourselves and know that someone thinking differently than me isn't about chopping me down. It's just
Right.
about how they're thinking. So I might not, it might be really difficult for me to understand. Really, what it is it's difficult for me to agree, but I can hear them out and hear where that came from, what their thoughts are. And no, it's not me. It's not personal. It's not attack on me at
Yeah.
all. And that's part of what happens with the very volatile politics, with a very volatile subject, where we take it personally. And we often, that's what it really comes down to, especially in the workplace. It isn't all business because we don't leave our personal selves at the door like everyone
Right.
told us we were supposed to. But when someone has an opinion or idea, it's not about chopping me down. It's just a different opinion and idea, and they see it differently. They might just have different experiences. That's why they have this different idea. And when we start to do that and just breathe and ask ourselves questions, why is this igniting these feelings inside of me? Because I want to convince them to believe like me? Sometimes that's the answer, but do I need that? Do I need that to be able to talk to them? Do I need that to be able to work with them?
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh, Leslie, you have to come back. I love talking
I
to you when I
love
first got
that.
to know you. I'm so glad that we've
Me too.
connected. And okay, just because I'll give shout out to Mike Asher Brainer for the introductions. Mike's head is just
Exactly.
blowing up everywhere. So Mike, yeah, I'm verbalizing it. Okay, just don't let your head pop. But no, I really appreciate your time, and what you do. I remember the first time we met. I'm like, dude, I needed you in my life. Like, where have you been all my life? And so, anyone that needs to get a hold of you, I've got your website down here. How else can they get a hold of you, Leslie?
So, of course, LinkedIn. I'm there almost every day. It is how I met you. It's how I met Mike. So, thank you to LinkedIn. Obviously, my website, I have a blog there. I put quick tips that are actionable. So, please,
Ah,
read them or
don't die
subscribe.
yet, Leslie. Your
And
internet.
then,
So your
oh
blog
no,
does. You have quick something. That's when we lost you.
oh, quick tips that are actionable. But last but not least, this is a thank you to you, Sia. I am going to launch a YouTube channel with shorts, video. That thank you for that suggestion that a lot of my content is short and leaves people thinking. And I'll be launching that before the end of the year. So thank you for that great
Yay.
idea.
Oh my gosh. Please tag me. You know, I will always support you on that and whatever you need help on, more than happy to do that. And so, just to clarify, anyone that's asking, so you've got this content here that I'm recording a live stream, and you can maximize your digital content by taking snippets out of it. And if you are leveraging YouTube, for example, or the huge push around, short, palatable, digestible, ADDable, agreeable shorts is under 60 seconds. And then
Yes,
what I usually recommend is do like a 5 minute, maybe something else that's like the middle ground. So now you've got three different paths for people to find your content, to digest your content, and to get to know you and grow your credibility, build your community, and all that good stuff. So,
I love
Leslie,
it.
you just like fed into like my closing remarks here, which is so awesome, which is why I love you so much. So, everyone, please get to know Leslie Nydick. Nydick, right? I
Yes, you
never
got it
forgot. I
right.
forgot
Thank
to
you.
ask you how to pronounce your name. I am such a jerk. Did I
No,
say it
you're
right?
not. You got it right.
I see, but I made an assumption. You got people's address it and say, "I'm sorry, I didn't ask. I made an assumption." But no, everyone, please
Thank
reach
you.
out. You will find her always on LinkedIn. Obviously, if you don't remember, just ping me on the mic is listening. So I do have some housekeeping stuff here that I do need to go over just to make sure that we are all on the same page because, well, life is like that. So, real quick here, guys, I do want to remind folks I am the Dallas co chair of Global Leaders Organization. People wondering, like, what the hell is GLOW? Okay, all it is, it's a business organization, very similar to other business entrepreneur organizations. You've heard of like Vista, GEO, YPO. We actually do very well and collaborate with these organizations. GLOW is focused on the SMB entrepreneurs and business owners. So basically, it is that if you're in excess of 150K up to like, let's say 5 to 10 million annual revenue, depending on your industry, this is more of the group that is looking to accelerate their growth and they are considering access to capital. So you might have been bootstrapping your business and you might be saying, what can I do to take my small business into the world of a true growth accelerator and I become an entrepreneur, not just a small business owner? That's what GLOW is all about. So what do? We do a lot of meetings. There's a lot of activity going on. I'm super excited, you guys. Q4, there's so much going on that I decided to consolidate so everyone can see what this actually will look like. And so tonight, I know it's a happy hour, probably a little late for those in the Dallas area that you can't physically be there. There is an on the 27th next week, next Thursday, is an online live stream of a forum. If you don't know what forum is, imagine a mastermind on steroids. You are literally, and I said literally, uh, getting to know everyone to the point of crying. There's like an ongoing joke that Vince Placenti, I'll give you a shout out, where in his forum, they had a joke saying who'd be the first one to cry in a meeting. This is, you guys, hardcore mastermind on steroids. And what they do is it's very structured and you are committed to each other. So his forum is over 20 years old. So that's what we're
Wow.
talking about, the value of a forum. GLOW sponsors all that stuff. And so if you join as a member, you get to join a forum. Coming up in November, huge meeting for the Dallas chapter. We've got Calvin Carter of Bottle Rocket founder and Tim Storer of Bridgepoint. Oh my God, I probably should have Mason Bridge founder. They're going to join us for our panel on how they've grown their business to multi-billion-dollar businesses. And there is a GLOW special event coming in November 17th. this is, you guys, huge. If you know anything about virtual reality and the next generation of gaming and in IRL, check that out. I'm not able to give the full details yet because we're still hashing out, but 11/17 is the target date. And of course, end of year celebration with all the fellow Glow members. We have collaborated with the Alliance of Merger and Acquisition Advisors. So anyone that's in M&A world, finance, accounting, all that good stuff, another great organization. And of course, with sponsorship with Unicom and IME, Innovation Media Enterprises, which coincidentally enough happens to be my business. So everyone has a story to tell. Do it with a podcast, have that message, make your money, all that good stuff. And again, final reminder about Glow, committed to content, community, commerce, capital. I might be a little tired saying this and getting out of breath, but on that note, everyone and anyone, if you do not know Leslie, you need to. And on that note, you guys, thank you so much for another long episode. I have poor time management. Leslie, back off with that timer. I know we talked about it, but damn it, Janet, you're worth it to go long. So thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining the Mike is Listening.